Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre and Joe is not with me because this is a special episode, Draxter in the Field. I'm actually here in sort of an industrial area of Munich, Germany, and I'm about to visit the offices of CoSpaces. Now, I have no idea what CoSpaces is, but it looks really exciting. It looks like this is a tool, a platform to make virtual worlds that are very easy to make, a tool that is democratizing content creation, and CoSpaces position themselves in the field of education, and they're quite successful. No, this is not a time warp episode from the year 2007 where everybody talked about Second Life in education. This is in fact 2016, and CoSpaces is of course compatible with VR. I'm here with my assistant, Khalil. Hi, Khalil.
Hi.
And do you know anything about CoSpaces?
I have the app, but I don't know anything about them.
Okay, cool. So we're perfectly set up to getting a tour and asking the right who, what, when, where, why questions. So let's go inside. Oh yeah, actually before we go inside, I forgot something. The housekeeping notes. You can support this show by becoming a voluntary subscriber for, how much was it? I forgot, like $100 Linden per month. Ping us in world, avatar, Drax Files, Skype, Drax Files, radio, draxfiles.com. And we'll send you an awesome payment device. You can become a corporate sponsor. If you have an SL business, if you have a real life business, you can go to paypal.me/Draxter. So Peter Thiel gets a cut of everything that you support the show. Isn't that awesome? Then he can buy a lot of children's blood to live forever. So that's it. That's the housekeeping notes. It's all about CoSpaces today. If you're a Second Life fan, stay tuned though. It's going to be interesting. All right. God, it's the German version of Silicon Valley. I'm already lost. Number 45. You found it?
Ich glaube, wir sind im falschen, wir müssen zum nächsten.
We have to talk English. They don't understand us.
We have to go to the next one in the wrong place.
Okay.
So cool.
Hey, the elevator already knew that we want to go to the third floor.
Well, you have to press the button on the iPad outside and you can get in.
This is so modern. There's an iPad outside instead of a regular button pushing thing. Okay, now we're in a conference room, and I'm here with, who are you?
I'm Suzanne. I'm Public Relations Manager of Delightix.
And Delightix is the company that makes CoSpaces. Is that the only product, or do you have other platforms or products?
Yeah, so we actually already had a product for people who are not very technical but need to work with 3D. So it was a platform for people who did remote coaching for constellation work. Mm-hmm. Yes, and so we already had this platform, this 3D platform for everyone, and then we just added the VR on top. And here my colleague comes.
Here comes. Hi, yeah.
Hi, awesome.
Hi.
Hi, Thomas.
Somebody else has joined us.
Hi, Thomas. I'm the head of UX, by the way.
Head of UX, whatever that means. We don't know what. No, okay, but
Head of VR.
all right. So my listeners who are obsessed with Second Life and they tune off if I don't mention Lynn Lab or Second Life every 30 seconds. No. What is CoSpaces? Can you describe, or the Silicon Valley elevator pitch, which I think is down to 12 seconds. I'm exaggerating, but what is CoSpaces?
So CoSpaces is a platform that makes it very easy to create 3D or also VR content. It basically works with dragging and dropping. It's a browser-based tool, so you can just go to the website, you can start building by dragging and dropping, and within let's say 15 minutes you could have created your first VR space, and then you can download the app. And there you can experience it in virtual reality using, for example, a Google Cardboard in combination with your smartphone.
So you can drop houses onto a lawn, let's say, and then you can drop people in there. Can you do these people, these non-player characters, do they move? Can you animate them?
This is actually something that we are working on. It's going to come soon. So we are about to add a scripting feature to CoSpaces, and then you could code simple animation. So we are already experimenting with that. So this is one way how you're going to be able to add animations or interactivity to spaces.
Head of UX, your name again? Thomas?
Thomas.
Thomas?
Gläser.
Thomas, now when we talk about spaces, people in virtual worlds are very spoiled in the sense that they can have entire universes. How do you define a space? Is it a room, or what is the approximate size, or can you string together rooms when you're in the world, or is that maybe something on the horizon that you're working on?
First of all, a space actually is defined by environment. So right now we have like 5 different environments, like mountains or desert or just a neutral open space, which has still a border somehow. So
it's kind of is it a circle?
A circle, or you can change it into a square. But actually, I think we want to get rid of this kind of border thing. So actually, the environment defines kind of the border a bit. But what we are really planning in the future to add. So right now, you can have a lot of different other spaces. So like, for example, you have mountains, and then you build your stuff in the mountains. Then you open up another space, which is on a grassy field, and then you build something there. And then you can jump from space to space to space inside a project. So this is what we currently have. But it would be nicer in the future that you can jump from one project space into another project space. Best case, not only your project, if you would jump from a friend's space he created and he can link to your space.
So that could then be, because everybody's talking about the metaverse, and I was just scanning the news this morning in LA is the Unite 16 conference put on by Unity, and my friend Tony Parisi was just named the head of VR at Unity, and he is sort of advocating, he's sort of this proponent of the web being the metaverse. Then High Fidelity, Philip Rosedale again is saying he's building the metaverse. In many ways, I can also see this, that people made this, I can hear people dismissing it, that's kind of a child's toy, you just put little figures into a place and then you look at it through the goggles. How is that the metaverse? But it could be. I mean, if you could string together these various different worlds or projects, then this could be an infinite number of spaces stringed together. You can do an entire story, let's say, or you can hop from experience to experience, all within the world without ever leaving it.
I mean, right now you can probably mention this example.
Yeah, I wanted to show, but then it started talking.
Susanne is showing me right now a world with a little house, little property with a...
So this is something like a very simple story with 4 scenes. So here we could look around. I think it's easier to see like this. So it's a boy who finds a rocket in his front garden, and then he packs his stuff, and then he goes on a travel with the rocket, and then he goes to a foreign planet.
So you're stepping through different scenes with a forward arrow. You're stepping from the boy's property to space, and now he's on a different planet. And all the while, I hear a narration.
Yes, so you have the possibility to add sounds to a project in CoSpaces, and so you can just record your own voice, and you can put the story as a background sound.
And that's the sound that is coming. Is that spatial sound that's embedded in an object, or it's just overall?
This is just an overall sound. So like the narrator, he just comes from somewhere in the background.
That's awesome. And now I can see that this is the third space, and there is a 4th one. Does he go back with the rocket back home?
Yes, this is when he comes home and dinner is already waiting. In this example, it's especially nice with the story because it gives you the feeling of walking through a picture book. So it also works in VR. If you're in VR, to change from one space to the next space, you just look down and there's a little arrow, and then you can switch between the spaces. I
was just going to ask, how do you do it with an HMD on? How do you interact with this space?
So if you have an HMD, you have, we call it a so-called ground menu. So it's very common in other applications. If you look on the ground, then you see some additional menu or whatever. And in CoSpaces, you just look down and you will see two arrows like giving you an overview where to go next. So it's like you are currently in space 2 of 5, and then you say next, okay, space 3 of 5, and so on and so on. And you can jump back to the dashboard and then select something else and dive into this thing.
What is your target audience? And then a related question, because I've already seen these successes you have with education, with kids, which is a passionate topic of mine. What is the target, and then how about the kids?
Okay, so basically...
And then how do you convince teachers that these devices are not evil? Because I think that's the bigger task, maybe.
So our first target group was pretty open. We wanted to reach people who would like to create something for virtual reality, but don't have special skills, or who are not programmers, who are not designers. And we wanted to give them a tool that makes it easy to get into that, to start creating a first virtual reality world pretty quickly. So of course, kids were already a target group that we had in mind, because usually they're not designers or programmers. And they like to be creative, they like to try out new things, and yes, stepping into a fantasy world, I think this is something that, every kid would like to do that. And then we started seeing that it's interesting for teachers, I think, because they start experimenting with virtual reality right now, or they have started experimenting with that. But usually it's about experiencing. For example, there's Google Expeditions with which you can do really cool stuff, and they can take classes to go on an excursion to the moon, for example.
Are those 360 videos? What is Google Excursions?
Google Expeditions.
Expeditions.
I think it's similar to 360 videos, so you can basically go on a virtual trip to a place.
But it's essentially a passive experience. I mean, they film all, and then you just
and since they started getting familiar with those experiences, they also started to get interested in the other side. So not only getting the kids to experience virtual reality, but also creating content for the medium.
What age group we're talking about? Because this is something I talk with people all the time now here in Germany, also in the US, and there is it's very split. A lot of teachers are very suspicious when it comes to using digital technology in the classroom, and I was pretty shocked that a German friend just told me, like, when I told him what they do in the US, sometimes he goes like, no, they would never allow this. It's like really kind of like, you know, the devil that we have to keep outside.
I think first of all, there is a difference between Germany and other countries, because
Germany and the rest of the world. No.
German teachers are very suspicious of technology. But for example, American teachers, South Korean teachers are much more open. We have a lot of teachers from New Zealand as well. And they're doing projects with different age groups. For example, I've talked to a teacher who did a project with the 7th grade, where they read a novel, The Giver, and then they created scenes from the book. So each student would create one scene and then later present it to the others and explain why he put the objects, or why he portrayed the scene in this way. Or there's another project, I'm actually not sure how old they are, in South Africa, where they first did exhibitions about the history of a certain district, and then they started creating like utopias, how you could design a eco-city for this area, and how it could look like in 2020.
While Susanne is looking, I'm going to ask Thomas about
What you ask?
No, I like to ask questions that are putting people outside the comfort zone of their position. So I'm going to ask you: what do you think about these other creative virtual worlds that are coming online? I'm not sure if you Lab is building a world called Sansar, which is very secretive. It's in closed beta right now, but High Fidelity, made by Second Life co-founder Philip Rosedale, is already open, and they're advertising with a lot of content, and they're also trying to go into the educational space. So they had last year, when I was there, they had a human heart, and you can go into the heart, and with the Vive controllers you can take the heart apart, and that is also a world that is, at least in theory, I've been vocal about the UI. I think they would agree with me. It's not there yet. But what they're aiming at is something where everybody can create content. Of course, that does require a higher end headset. Is that something where you see like a competitor, or is it complementary? Or on the podcast we always ask that silly question, is this VHS versus beta? Can there only be one at the very end? Or will there be an ecosystem of creative virtual spaces?
Good point. Which question should I answer? These were actually 4 questions. Okay, first about High Fidelity. I mean, we are always checking out other tools from VR, and are there maybe some overlaps or not? And is it interesting, most of all, also from a usability perspective? So, is there any other tool a lot of people are using? Can you borrow interaction concepts from them? Because this is always good from usability perspective, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Like, for example, how I place objects in this tool, maybe we can also use, because it's quite common. Like the same, we used the Keynote side panel and just idea and made it like the space panel, for example. So for High Fidelity, I downloaded it, I checked it out. I think it was a very early version. Still, to me, it appeared pretty complex, and yeah, I did not really continue. I think I could not even really log in and no, it was really. It's interesting. There,
CEO Ebbe Altberg has used the F word in a recent Wired article when he was asked about High Fidelity. It's hilarious. He got really mad about. He's vocal about the fact that it's so clunky, and I think his criticism is that they're going a different route, like they're pushing out all the content and bringing people in who build content. I don't know, maybe from a marketing perspective it's genius, I have no idea. But the UI for the normal person is incredibly cluttered.
I think why our UI currently is so simple to use comes actually from our roots. So as we started with the Litex, we developed a tool called CoSpaces, which was more targeted to psychotherapy and coaching.
Yeah.
And
is that like GoToMeeting? No.
We had some GoToMeeting kind of feature inside, so you can have a video call with your coach, and then you have like a 3D space, and then you can use metaphorical objects to map out stuff. So if you talk to people who are familiar to family constellations or systemic constellations,
that is pretty awesome. I love that stuff. Is that still? Do you still have it?
Yeah, we still have it. It's.
So
but wait a minute, this is not a coach. Is that like can you be there can a therapist or coach be together with a client in the same space at the same time?
Yes, so it looks very similar to the CoSpaces space. So you can place objects, like the client places himself, and then the therapist could also place an object.
Yeah. So the thing was, this was a tool where we were starting from, and the target group, like I said, therapists, coaches, usually 40, 50 plus, not so much into tech. So we had to be very simple, using very basic interactions. And then we found out that kids from like parents from our team were picking it up, using coaching spaces. And for example, I can also put a guy on the stage, and then I could put some animals on the stage, because this is used for coaching actually. So, for example, you can make a team
for role play.
You can make a team coaching thing there, and for example, put this is the gorilla as a symbol for my boss, and I'm just the little pig or whatever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So. But then we saw that the kids were misusing it, so they were telling stories with it. So they made a space, and then they put like a woman on the stage and made a black dress and said, "This is the evil queen, and she lives in the mountains." And then there are
She lives in the kitchen, and she's actually my mom. I see.
Yeah. So plus then inspired by this, we said, okay, it looks like it's an interesting misuse. So let's get a lot of other kids in, and let's give them coaching spaces to play around with, not for therapy sessions, just to be creative. And we saw they liked it, and actually this was from startup language, we saw a pivot opportunity. So yeah, we left coaching spaces where it is right now, and then we were more focusing on CoSpaces, because as we saw that there was a huge interest from kids, we also had to keep it very simple, and they enjoyed the simplicity of the tool, and we saw also increasing the trend in VR. So more and more people coming and would like to not only experience VR, would like to create something, make something.
That's what fascinates me, because I think that, one criticism we have on the podcast often, and I've been at Sundance in January, and VR right now seems to me in a stage of it's like an elitist group of people. It's very privileged, and that can be attributed to the price maybe of the headset, and you guys are circumventing that by making it accessible with tools like the browser. That I can see that, but it's also the fact that everybody can create. And I know, and when I criticize, and I have heard that, when I say, that's cool what you guys are doing, but the promise of Second Life initially was to level the playing field between creator and just the mere spectator. And then people oftentimes in their sort of developer bubble tell me, yeah, but you got Unity. And I go like, yeah, it's free, but it's tremendously complex. I'm not, well, then you just have to sit down and learn.
That's only one part of the story. I mean, we also have people here familiar with Unity, so we use also Unity for prototyping some stuff. And it's, I think, right now the only the only tool where you can create stuff kind of easily. But still, I would question this elite thing. So right now, I think VR is still in a state where people think about, okay, what can we do with it? What's the next big thing? And what's the killer feature of VR? And people who create content, they usually use game engines. So game engines are very complex. Plus, then you also need some 3D modeling tools. So you need to use Blender or Maya or whatever. If you it was so funny. We had an intern here, and we said, okay, this is your first day of internship. It was just like 1 week of trial. Open up Blender and start doing something with it. And the first comment to Blender was like, what is this? Why? How?
I think it took me an hour to figure out how to move the cube around. But that's what I mean with elitist.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. For example, people criticize Second Life for the complex UI, but I have made the test, remember, with Cole's brother, Aiden. He was 6 years old, and I said, here's a prim, can you stretch the prim? And he goes like, okay, click here. Then these other things appear. Yeah, I can stretch it. So that's what I mean. I mean, and you guys are opening that up to a much larger group of people who have ideas but who don't know where to start.
And I think that's the thing. Actually, this is more like from a mission perspective, but I'm just questioning, why are only people with Unity and special 3D skills right now are able to imagine what could be possible in VR?
Because they are better than us.
No, I think it's not fair.
Exactly, that's exactly the point. I agree with you 1,000%. It cements that kind of paradigm that we have, where it's like, okay, here's this group of people that create the content, and you better sit in front of the screen and you consume this content. And I personally am excited about a world where that is, you can mention Photoshop or whatever other tools that have sort of broken this open, this sort of paradigm. And it's not to say that you should not put work into it. You have to put work into anything in order to master it, but to lower the threshold of just people getting in there is exciting. That's what excites me about what you guys do.
And it's interesting. We are actually always like scanning and looking around what others build, and actually we are surprised that no one else really is like thinking about an early access, very easy, like entry level VR tools.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? I mean, I think.
Because when you're in the ivory tower on the top floor penthouse, you don't care if people are like dying outside trying to tell your story.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think probably if you look at other technologies, usually it goes like this. So first there's a new technology, then there comes a lot of content, a lot of stuff, and then usually after some years, people start thinking, well, it would be nice if we could also do it, not only the professionals, like with video recording or something. So there were professionals doing movies, and then in the 80s you had this big trend of everyone was buying own cameras and doing private home videos and this kind of era. And but this came very late in the whole motion picture history. And for VR, probably also that like in 10 years or maybe 15, then we will think about something where ordinary people can create VR. But we're starting right now because I think it will kickstart the whole VR industry and the whole thing, because you need to open it up to other people to find the killer feature. Because I think the super like killer feature of VR. It's not found yet.
Let's shift gears real quick, because earlier we talked about education, and you mentioned also South Africa. I was going to ask you, how do you go outside of Germany? How do you target? How do you find places, schools, teachers that are open-minded using it? Again, if I look at your Twitter stream, there is some really great personal accounts of. There was somebody who said, my son is disabled in a wheelchair, and he created something, and then he can show it to others, or he can also enjoy it himself, and he feels not immobile and all that. But how do you go out? What's the strategy to go out and find users and
Actually, with the first teachers, they found us. So we came here in the morning, and then there were a lot of sign-ups where we could see, okay, they seem to be all from the same place, and then we looked further, and then we saw, okay, it's a school. So the first teachers really found us. It was, I think, a school from New Zealand and a school from South Korea. And then South Korea, they keep finding us. So actually, in the first place, it wasn't that we went there, but apparently teachers really looked for a VR creation tool. Yes, you mentioned Twitter.
Oh, so they were googling VR creation tool.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
They were looking for it.
Uh-huh.
And actually, right now, we see this mouth-to-mouth thing happening. Especially, I think we have some advocates, like teachers are really excited about it, and then we see like some making YouTube videos on their own. We don't talk to them. So like, hey, you have to do YouTube videos about us. They just do it, or they go to conferences and talk about it. Or lately there was another conference. It was not a teacher, but it was a journalist, because journalists also are quite into VR and see this as the future of like immersive journalism. And then a friend was texting me a message like, hey, I'm currently at a conference, and the journalist is talking on stage that your tool is so easy to use for every journalist and something. And I was like, cool. You see, it's like, no, I just want to pass the word back to Susanne, but
no, this is great.
Mouth-to-mouth thing is happening.
And on the other hand, you mentioned Twitter. Twitter is a platform that teachers who are into education technology use. So we've made a lot of contact via Twitter. So we have a lot of teachers who follow us on Twitter and who interact with us and who post things like photos from projects that they do in class. So this is a channel where we keep finding new people who are interested.
We talked about this in the very beginning, and because you mentioned immersive journalism, my friend Moni de la Peña does a lot in that field, but she works with very high-end tools. She has that luxury of having sort of that status where she gets a lot of high-end tools. If I now, and this is not a criticism, but I was going to say, how do you respond to the limit, the current limitation of tools in CoSpaces? I asked in the very beginning, and I think you said yes, but let's reiterate this. Can I animate non-player characters in a scene, in a room? What are the limitations right now, or what is the current state, and where do you see this going? I mean, do you see it going towards a complexity, let's say, of let me give you a concrete example. I'm working on a documentary film right now about the history of lynching in the U.S. It's a very, very tough topic, and a really terrible part of history that reverberates until today. And we're creating some immersive projects around a traditional documentary. And we have conceptualized a thing where you are immersed in a lynching spectacle where the victim is here and there's maybe, 20 people there all shouting, hang him up and he's a criminal. You put the goggles on, you're inside a scene that requires, in order to come alive, a lot of NPCs basically. Would I be able at some point to create something with CoSpaces that has a concurrency of avatars? Tomorrow.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
No. I mean, this is really just, is something like this on the horizon, or is it something where you go like, yeah, this would be very cool if we can do, but right now we have other priorities, or?
Yeah, I think right now we have on our priority lists, the next big thing we are launching is scripting. So I think this is important to give people the possibility to make things interactive. Right now with scripting, in the future then with more visual scripting, easier way of interacting with the script, with simple if and then stuff. And I think we are also working hardly on our marketplace, on our store, on a lot of more app objects coming in, giving people the opportunity to build their own stuff. So we are adding more and more building blocks and working also on a expert builder mode with more expert level rotation control. So you can advance from CoSpaces into a more complex tool, but still not a 3ds Max thing. But you see,
this is cool. So you're hiding these for the general beginner that they're not confused.
But in CoSpaces, we want to allow people to grow actually. So you can get more advanced if you want. So yeah, we will split this into a free and pro membership thing. So for the pros, for people who are aiming for more, we will give you more advanced features.
So the level of interactivity right now, because I remember we're going to build something in just a minute, I can animate things, no? I mean, a little...
Some things can change their position, like the clock can run, people can have different body postures, but mainly you build static content as it is at the moment.
At the moment, it's static, and this is what we wanted to fix for the beginning with simple script, and then I think with even simpler visual scripting, or this is also on our list, having a timeline thing. I'm not sure if timeline is the right thing, but in general, a simple way to animate things.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like an important next step what we're going to offer.
I mean, with time, like akin to, I don't know, Flash or After Effects, where you scroll through a timeline.
I'm not sure if the timeline is the right thing for our user group, but in general, to give people opportunity to make things move very quickly, very simple without scripting, could be also, yeah.
Maybe just define like keyframes in the space, boom, then put it there, and then define like it takes 3 seconds to go from A to B, something like this.
Are we brainstorming right now? No, it's a great idea. No, actually, yeah, we already
cost you €2.50.
No, we already have internal features where we test something like this.
No, you mentioned this is good because the next question with the business model, it's free to use right now, or how does that work?
Okay, we are currently working on our store actually. So we will launch this around Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Right now we prepared I think like 30 different kinds of Christmas objects. We will have Santa, reindeer, sleigh. Like Christmas tree and so on. So a lot of Christmas objects and Christmas environments, so you can build your own interactive or animated Christmas story. And you can tell a Christmas story with that. So selling assets there is our first way. So we sell assets.
Can I sell them if I make cool stuff?
Next step. So we want to, you can, in CoSpaces you can build objects, you can make compound objects out of it. And you will be able to say, okay, this is a cool thing I built in CoSpaces, send this to the marketplace, give it a price tag, and if someone else picks it up, I get money for it and we get a share.
That's great.
That's the next thing. And another revenue model is the, like I mentioned, free and pro membership thing. So for example, right now we are planning to release scripting as a pro feature for now, because we think that it's also like more advanced stuff. But still, we'll keep it on a monthly, I think, entry level.
And that's something maybe the schools will use.
Yeah, for learning code, I think it's also something. First of all, there's no easy way to build VR. So building is one thing, and the other thing is like developing, like making it move, making it be interactive. If I click on an object, that some info panel comes up and tells me a story about it, something like this. There's also no easy way to code, and not even for VR, even just in general, simple coding tools to teach coding.
It's actually really nice for trying out. So I had never coded before, I don't know any programming, but since they're developing it and they build a lot of stuff in CoSpaces, so I got curious and I started trying it out, and it's really nice because you try something, you put together some snippets and then you click play and then it really moves. It is a 3D environment where things move around.
It's a magic moment.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Even if it's just really easy, it's just...
I mean, you feel like playing God, right? So you have some stuff and then, or it's like, I don't know, the professor in Frankenstein, and then you just type some magic comments and then you press play and then the things move and you did it and it's like, I made a machine. I don't know.
That's in fact the magic moment where you're becoming a world maker. Last question, and then maybe Khalil, you want to build a world? Germany.
Nice country.
So
Bavaria.
Okay, so I think it was already 2 years ago. I talked to the guys of Cyberith from Austria. They make the virtualizer omnidirectional treadmill. Really cool, and they were in the process of relocating to Silicon Valley.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to ask you. Is it not, when you have an exciting product in that space, is it necessary to be there physically? Or not, and I hear both answers all the time. No, you got to be there. I have to. People call it strategic move. Even within the U.S., people from the East Coast. A friend of mine just moved over. He said, "Well, I got to be there." I said, "Why?" Well, yeah, I got to go to these. I got to go to these shows, and I got to mingle, and I got to shake hands. And I'm not. I'm not so sure about that, because I would like to believe that in today's world, if you have a very strong product, yeah, you send somebody over there every once in a while, but do you really have to be present there 24 is my question, as a business in this field?
Well, I sometimes see, because I have a lot of contact with teachers from the US, sometimes it's difficult to find a time to schedule a call, or if they invite you to an online event, but they're really nice about that. Like only yesterday they put an event from a time that would have been at 12 o'clock at night for me to 7 o'clock in the evening.
Time zone issue. They
yes,
have not resolved that in VR.
There is a time zone issue, but until now I never really had the feeling, okay, this is so strong. We have
But
to
people still always, they talk about this sort of physical presence, and then when I tell folks, hey, I've been working with people for years in distributed teams, and some of them, seriously, I have never met in the physical world, and I feel, these are colleagues, partners, very strong, good friends, and we don't have an issue. Even now, this is a slightly different question here, because I'm talking about co-working.
Yeah.
It's kind of.
We have a distributed team as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are in Munich mainly as and then in St. Petersburg. So we also have a split team, and we have like daily stand-ups with them, and so especially the developer team, like having the video conferencing and stuff, and it works. But coming back to the Valley question, I have a personal opinion about it. First of all, I think two things. If it's about developing a tool, it's just about finding good people who can code, who can create concepts and stuff. I don't think you need to be in the Valley. There are a lot of other talented people outside of the Valley who can create cool stuff. In Munich, in St. Petersburg, for example. What the Valley can be interesting is first
venture
of all,
capital.
No, not really.
No?
Okay.
That's what everybody says. Well, I gotta be there because I gotta schmingle.
Of course,
with the
they
guys
have some money, and plus, I think mostly for networking issues. Like, for example, if you want to get mentioned on TechCrunch, if you want to get mentioned on any other like technology blog there, the people are there, there's a network, and then you go to some meetups, and then it spreads very easily, right? Plus, the community of, there are developers. If you talk with these developers, they can reference you to other developers. Just to be in this network of exchanging with people on some events there, or just going straight over to the company's office and talk with them and partnering and networking. For this kind of thing, it's nice to be there. But for development or for design, you don't need to be there. And actually, I think that
it might be even distracting.
Yes. No, and I even think that for VR, I see that Asia can be a game changer. So there's a lot of hype about VR in China. We will see ourselves, because next week we're going to Singapore to some EdTech event. So checking out the edutech industry and VR like friendliness in Asia. So far we have heard a lot of good things about it.
Well, like I said, they seem to be more open-minded in general to use it in education.
Yeah, for example, in South Korea we have many users.
I think, and there in Asia they have also like a strong tech community, not as popular as the Valley, but people very interested in bringing VR to the next level, really being a main driver for this whole new industry. There's a lot of interest coming from Asia and also investors. So I think, you spread the news about, I think South Korean government investing into, what was it?
I think invested in VR. I'm not sure if it was something specifically.
Some $1 million something, South Korean government putting money into like VR and education and something like this. And we're like, okay, interesting. Any other country? I don't know. Germany, I don't think that. Mrs. Merkel will say like, oh, we have this $1 million.
Well, they tried to put it into education technology, but the teachers didn't want.
Yeah, the teachers didn't want. It was just about like buying additional iPads for schools or something, and then I said, how can you? Okay, but anyhow, I think in general, I mean, this is also what we learned from coaching spaces. We talked also with coaches here in Germany, and actually a lot of coaches came from Brazil or South America, where they are much more open in trying new things out. So I think in general, if you want to start, you can start something in Germany, but your target audience is probably somewhere else in the world.
Ganz kurz, Khalil, mach mal ganz kurz ein paar Stills, einfach so, während wir. Achso, gut. Dann mach rum, was du magst, dann machen wir das. Okay.
Wollen wir jetzt vielleicht noch die Sachen von den südafrikanischen Schülern, die sind nämlich echt cool. Ich habe jetzt nämlich auch mal rausgesucht.
Genau, die kannst du auch beschreiben und dann linke ich die auch rein.
Genau.
And so Susanne is showing us now some stuff that was made by students in South Africa. Da kannst du über Schulter ein bisschen machen. Ich weiß nicht, ob ich benutze, weil es einfacher ist than Screenshot. Quick question now about this. Now, and we touched, but there's no harm in reiterating this. I can enjoy these spaces on a mobile device without headset.
Yes, there is a gyroscope mode, so where you don't have the split screen for VR, but you just see the scene on the whole screen and you can just move it around. So it's basically like a static 360 movie that you can enjoy.
In the browser, I would have to move it with a mouse, I guess.
Yeah, in the browser it looks like this.
So very cool. So now we're seeing. Interesting. This is such an interesting paradigm because this is the first thing that people made also in Second Life. I remember I was involved with the Kansas to Cairo project with architecture. They had that, so you can walk around sort of an exhibit
this is
of slides.
This is a history exhibition. So I have here what the teacher wants to do with the project, so I don't say anything wrong. So the aim is to get the students reflect on South Africa's past by curating a virtual gallery, and then they build sustainable eco-cities in CoSpaces as a way to imagine the future of District 6, which is, I think they're in Cape Town.
So this is a museum exhibit, a virtual immersive museum exhibit, consists of slides and text panels. And you just put that together in CoSpaces, and then you can immerse yourself. Where's the starting position of the viewer? I imagine
usually
it's inside.
in the middle. So you could really look around and you would get the feeling of being inside an exhibition. So they've actually built several exhibitions. Here's one that is very plain with black and white pictures. This one, it has a different approach. Here we don't have a closed room, but it's more like a field where the images are just placed and you can walk around these, and there are bridges. They probably symbolize something.
This is great. So we're looking at a snowy, hilly landscape with different objects just placed seemingly arbitrarily in the space with pictures, and this would be perfect for our Always in Season project too. Now, I asked this before, so I'm placed, the viewer is placed in the middle. Can I change my position where I'm at?
You can walk in virtual reality by either tapping the screen or pushing the button of your headset. So usually this also is a mechanism to touch the screen.
That makes sense.
Then I think there's another exhibition. Yes, this is a little more colorful. It's also a little exhibition room with walls, and here they even put some other people who are looking at the exhibition.
You have little avatars. They're static, but it immediately gives you the feeling that you're not alone. I mean, this is really cool. So this is a school in South Africa.
But this is the really cool stuff that they built.
So here they built an entire city with houses, some high-rise.
And you can see they put additional info to show how they would like to make it eco-friendly. So
there's little bubbles with information about cartoon bubbles with text in them. And here one says, for instance, electrical buses is attached to a bus. These run on electricity and therefore don't give off exhaust fumes, also create jobs. So basically this is a concept how to, like you said earlier, make an eco-friendly city.
Yes, so they imagined that in virtual reality, and then they put all the info in that they came up with. For example, in one space I saw that they have a gym, and the how are they called, the machines in the gym produce electricity. I don't remember where it was, but those kind of ideas, they put them in there. Some of these projects are really cute.
That reminds me of Black Mirror episode 2. Not the new season, but the first one.
For example, here they build little gardens on top of the houses.
Urban gardens on top of the house. Again, we're right now looking at the desktop. We can zoom in, we can rotate. There's a train station, there's a rainwater collector. So it becomes this model that people can check out. What age are these kids? You know?
Maybe I can find out, but well, we can see a video of them. Russische Tastatur.
Yeah, we have a Russian. I was
Russian keyboard. It's
So you're infiltrated by Russia, just like Donald Trump is a Russian puppet. That's very comforting news. Oh my God, where am I? There are people outside with Kalashnikovs. Let's get out of here.
Actually, our Russian colleagues are very nice.
There is 2 Russian guys that they made a thing called Tavori. I'm getting. So now we're looking at a little video here on Twitter.
They're talking about.
You see the kids, and we're going to link this on the podcast. You can see the kids explaining what they made with this cityscape.
I think grade 9 then.
Grade 9.
9th grader?
Oh no.
How old are you? 9th grade?
You think so? Yeah. They stay
15?
Yeah.
16?
So here's this kid off screen explaining what he thought about when he put that cityscape together that uses alternative sources of energy to power the utilities of that city. This is very cool. So these are also teachers that contacted you in South Africa.
Yeah, I think with him I got in contact via Twitter, and then when he learned about us, he started imagining this project, and now he is finally doing it. And what is really nice, what I often hear from those teachers is that they say the engagement is so nice if you get the virtual reality goggles.
And that was Susanne Krause from CoSpaces. I apologize to my audio snobs. The sound quality is a little bit roomy. It's a little bit roomy, because we didn't have any close lavalier mics or anything. But you guys got to keep it together and accept what we have. So this is a fascinating product world. Also, thanks to Thomas Gläser, who was part of this conversation. On the blog, we have a 360 video where Kaleo is building a world that then I completed later on. And I called it Life in the Burbs. And it's my therapeutic, very therapeutic working through some issues of my upbringing and my heritage growing up in a suburb in of Munich. CoSpaces, just a couple of facts to end this with. 25 people, half of them are in St. Petersburg, Russia. The financing is done through seed financing through a company called JetBrains. We're going to link to all these things so you can check them out for yourself. If you're interested in testing the upcoming scripting API, you can drop them an email at info@thelitex.com. And you can get into that beta program, testing that out. Of course, the Life in the Burbs experience is also linked on the blog, so you can pop on Google Cardboard and check it out. Now, there's so much other stuff that was happening this week that we didn't get to in the world of VR. I'm going to link to some things that I find important. Unite 16 happened in LA. Our friend Tony Parisi joined the Unity team, and that's congratulations, first of all, but also Timoni West demoed the visual editor that is coming next month in Unity, and maybe that'll give Project Sansa a run for its money, who knows. The Linden Lab team has arrived by the time this goes to air in Lisbon, where the Web Summit is happening, and Ebbe will be doing a live demo there from Sansar, so keep your eyes peeled on that. VRDC happened, and the announcement out of there was the ready room from More 3D, and now another friend of ours, Chris Madsen, and I congratulate him, the director of AR and VR at More 3D, actually kept this really quiet in a conversation with us a couple weeks ago, that they were announcing basically an avatar creation tool that is platform independent, where you can teleport from world to world with that same avatar. The first folks to join Ready Room, that avatar building tool is high fidelity. The race is on. And as we go to air, more VR days in Amsterdam. I don't know how Joe feels about it. We'll talk to her next week. Now, last but not least is, of course, the big Linden Lab announcement that the prim limit has been increased. The prim limit on mainland and the prim limit on private estates. So this is obviously quite significant for Second Life enthusiasts who doesn't have a sprawling mansion in a replica of Malibu with maybe just 2 chairs in them. So we're going to link to the Designing Worlds discussion where Patch Linden goes into detail about this, and we'll address this next week. Please comment on any number of these items on the blog and let us know what you think about Second Life. There's also an article that came out in Motherboard Vice about Sansar in the context of Second Life, and there's some interesting quotes there where folks are continuously afraid that Second Life will be shut down when Sansar hits the streets. That is, of course, it's a weird rumor. Anyway, we're going to end the show with a very, very special guest. A beautiful voice. A very important Linden. She's among my top 5 Lindens. And she's going to summarize what happened with the prim increase. And everyone else, have a great weekend. Bye. Take it away, Dee.
Hi, Drax. I'm Dee Linden. I'm the supervisor of the land operations team at Linden Lab for Second Life. Thanks for having me on your show today. Tuesday and Wednesday, we quietly rolled out land impact increases to our mainland and Linden home regions. I say quietly, that was the plan. The full regions increased from 15,000 land impact, or prims in Old B speak, to 22,500, and the homesteads increased from 3,750 to 5,000. I've wanted this since 2002. We simply had to wait until technology caught up to us. Now that it has, and our simulators are running so well, we finally can, so we did. Now we're gathering metrics and finalizing the process to roll out a similar increase for private islands. Our intent is to increase all private regions to 20,000 for the full islands, 5,000 for homesteads, and 1,000 for open spaces. Absolutely nothing. It's a free increase in land impact allowances for all private regions and will automatically be rolled out to them shortly. Private island owners will have the ability to increase their full regions to 30,000 if they wish to do so. There will be a small conversion fee and additional monthly maintenance fee associated with increasing to 30K. At this point, we believe it will be a $30 conversion fee and additional $30 per month. Thanks so much, Drax. Bye.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Time Portal, SL Artist, Warbug, 01 Heavy Industries Corporation, Hextraordinary Fine Magical Goods, Ionic, Maven Homes, Gizzo Creations, Strawberry Sing, Abranimations, Eros Avatars, The Cube Republic, What Next, Landscapes Unlimited, Bay Cities You Know for Kids, Fallen Gods Incorporated, Feroche SL, and Death Row Designs. Contact the show via Skype, Drax Files Avatar, Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.